A cell splitting into several smaller cells is shown in the initial picture. The next scene depicts a primitive proto-human reaching for a lake to quench his thirst. Lucy, played by Scarlett Johansson, starts out by stating that life started billions of years ago and then thinks about what humans have done with it ever since. Present-day Lucy is a young American lady waiting outside a Taiwanese hotel with her one-week fiancé Richard, played by Louis Baek. Mr. Jang's, Choi Min-sik, room is the one he wants her to deliver a briefcase to. Lucy refuses to do anything for Richard until she knows what he wants her to bring, so he binds her wrist to the handle of the suitcase, forcing her to comply, even if he promised $500. She enters the lobby, hesitantly gives the receptionist her name, and then explains that Richard is sending her up to Jang. Until he is fatally shot, Lucy watches out the window and sees Richard attempting to cheer everyone up while smiling. A gang of thugs emerge from the elevator and compel Lucy to accompany them as they ascend. Here we see a cheetah pursuing a gazelle, mowing it down, and then dragging its dead body about in its jaws. Each weighing 1 kilogram. A man who has been drugged is brought in by Jang to sniff the blue substance. The guy has a brief convulsion before he begins giggling uncontrollably, which Jang ends by shooting him in the head. After that, Lucy was smacked for refusing to execute a task that was requested of her. In a hotel room, Lucy awakens. Her belly button is covered with a bandage. Jang's guys storm in and proceed to toss her several garments. Along with 3 other males, she is brought to Jang. The other men and Lucy have had a medicine called CPH4 put into their lower intestines, as explained to them by a British guy dubbed the Limey, Julian Reintat. They plan to carry the medication around the globe since it is supposedly the next big thing. Following this, Lucy is led into a room while shackled and one of the thugs attempts to undress her jeans before kicking her in the stomach, just where they slit her. The result is a powder leak into Lucy's system due to a rip in the medication bag. She starts to flail and writhe about the room, eventually reaching for the ceiling before tumbling back to the floor. Throughout this, we see Morgan Freeman's Professor Samuel Norman delivering a presentation about his brain capacity studies to a classroom. In essence, he describes the consequences for society and the brain if it were able to employ more than the 10% of its capacity that is now believed to be available to humans, as well as how it would react to specific conditions that may lead to immortality or reproduction. The basic idea is that subjects would choose for immortality and relocate if they dislike their current habitat, while they would be more likely to procreate if they enjoy it. Imagine all the different species having sexual relations. Here we see video from a magic act to illustrate the point. If humans could achieve 40%, they could influence matter. What would happen if humans reached 100%? A student asks Norman. I don't know, he adds. Lucy comes to, her eyes a dazzling shade of blue. She sits up straight, more composed than earlier. Lucy entices a thug who enters the room by spreading her legs. Smiling, the bandit sets his pistol down on the table. While he approaches her, Lucy seizes his belt, turns him over, and proceeds to get the pistol by pulling the table over. She manages to escape and then opens fire on the other goons as they are eating. Even though she takes a gunshot to the shoulder, she manages to remove it painlessly. Before she leaves, she finishes up the meal that the thugs had. Outside, she spots 2 cab drivers. She shoots one in the leg and convinces the other to bring her to the emergency room. Lucy has a heightened state of awareness while driving to the hospital, allowing her to perceive voices outside the vehicle. She arrives at the hospital and reads the signs as if they were written in English. She arrives at a surgical suite where a guy is undergoing treatment. In front of the physicians, Lucy shows them the patient's x-rays and then kills the guy, telling them that the tumor in his brain had progressed too far for them to save him. The patient insists that the medical staff remove the bag from her abdomen. She then contacts her mom to fill her in on the details, explaining that she can sense every sensation, from the air around her to the warmth escaping her body, and that she can even access her most primal memories, such as being ill as a child or cuddling a kitten when she was only a year old. Before ending the call, she expresses her love for her mother. After Lucy identifies the drug as CPH4, The doctor removes the bag from her stomach and explains that it is a substance that pregnant women produce around the 6-week mark to provide nutrients to the developing baby. He expresses his astonishment at Lucy's ability to have survived this long with it in her system. Lucy returns to the hotel for a last trip in order to locate Jang, who is undergoing a facial and a tattoo. She stabs Jang in the hands twice before killing his bodyguards and driving the tattoo artist away. By using her new abilities to do a Vulcan mind meld into his head, she is able to view the destinations of the other 3 drug mules using pictures of their plane tickets. Jang screams in agony as she flees. Lucy borrows Caroline's, Leo Tipton, laptop and heads to her flat to use it. She quickly reads all of Norman's research and then gets in touch with him to let him know what she read. Now that she has increased her brain capacity to 20%, he is shocked to learn that she reads everything, even while she describes her feelings and experiences. The TV, phone, and radio in Norman's hotel room all show her look since she can control gadgets. He is scheduled to meet with her in 12 hours. She prints up a prescription for Caroline before she leaves, explaining that Caroline's kidneys and liver are deteriorating and that she can recover if she changes her lifestyle. While word gets out that Lucy shot the patient, she decides to get a new hairstyle and color while she makes her way through the airport. After learning about the other drug mules, she contacts Captain Pierre Del Rio, a French policeman played by Amr Waked. She gets on the plane and keeps pounding away at her laptop, immersed in her brain study. Lucy requests a glass of champagne and tells one flight attendant to wipe her nose without looking. The woman ends up bleeding from her nose thereafter, despite the flight attendant's requests that she switch off her computer. After receiving the champagne flute, Lucy takes it and says, "To knowledge." The word 40% appears on screen as she takes a drink. In her glass, she finds a tooth, and then 3 more teeth are spilt out. Then, right in front of everyone on board, her skin begins to deteriorate. As soon as Lucy reaches the restroom, her fingers start to dwindle and her face starts to soften. She takes out the remaining CPH4 and snorts it to go back to normal, but then she faints. Jang tells G to do something from outside while the cops shoot down his guys. By launching a rocket through the room, G sends Lucy hurtling toward Times Square hundreds of miles away. By just waving her hand, she is able to alter the passage of time. By going back in time, she encounters the proto-human from the opening scene in prehistoric periods, as well as the early 20th century in New York and the colonies. When their fingertips meet, Lucy is sent soaring across space and time, bestowing upon her an endless supply of power. Upon entering the room, Jang gradually brings his rifle up to Lucy's head. Subsequently, she achieves 100%. Her clothing remains there when her corpse vanishes. Nothing evades Jang's gunshots. Del Rio enters the room and murders Jang with a gunshot. After vanishing and changing into a flash drive, the room's black matter falls in Norman's hands, allowing him to extend and finish his study. Who is Lucy? Del Rio wonders. He receives a message on his phone that reads, "I am everywhere." At the end of the film, Lucy's voiceover explains that this is the purpose of life as we see an aerial image of Jang's body.